Hi y'all, this is Kate Campbell with John Broughton on Retrospectives on 3SER KC Radio.
I'm going out into the free world and farm.
To start with, I believe music was quite hard for you to ignore when you were growing up. There was quite a bit of it in your house?
Well, I don't think it was excessive, but my mother sang and played the piano. My father did not sing, but he was a preacher who told stories, so a lot of stories. My grandfather loved music in Kentucky. He was kind of a bluegrass. He liked bluegrass music. But also where I lived, though, because I was always singing in church, and then I lived in Mississippi and in Nashville. So yes, it was all around me, though probably not any more than anyone else at the time. You know, I don't think it was excessive, but it was definitely there.
As the years went on, did you find yourself becoming a real student of music, going out of your way to learn as much as you could?
Well, I don't know. I took piano lessons, and I played the clarinet in the band. And you know, I was a child like in the 60s and the 70s, 1960s and 70s, and I was around teenagers a lot because they were at my father's church. And so they were always playing guitar and singing songs from the radio, and so I was around them. So that's really how I learned to play the guitar, is I watched the teenagers, and then I would go home and try to figure it out for myself.
So what would you say was the first music to really make you sit up and take notice, and I guess to make you want to make your own?
Well, probably there's two. Early on, the person that I remember the most was Dolly Parton when I was a real young girl. I remember seeing her on TV and realizing that, you know, she was playing the guitar, and also realizing that Dolly was writing most of her own stuff. I don't know how I knew that, but I knew that. Mm-hmm. And then I really liked, my favorite single, 45, was Me and Bobby McGee by Janis Joplin. Uh-huh. And I played it over and over and over and over again. And I somehow knew that Chris Christopherson wrote that again. I don't know if I had it in music books or what, but probably early on there was Chris Christopherson, Dolly Parton, Bobby Gentry, Elvis, of course. Those are probably early on the people that I really, and like the song "Ode to Billy Joe," I just thought was wonderful. And so those are probably early on people that really influenced me, and that especially Dolly and Bobby Gentry, that made me think that I could write and sing and play the guitar.
There's a real storytelling element to some of those influences too, and there is a strong storytelling element to your music. What for you is the key to good storytelling?
Well, I think you have to. It has to be interesting to you before you can tell it to someone else. Number one, you know, like you can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to write a story song today." I think that it's something that genuinely moves me. It's a story I hear, or it's in my family, or I read about it, and I think, "Wow, that really moves me. Now I want to talk about it some more, and I want to tell that story." And I think that even when writing the songs, you have to just you have to write it as you would say it, or as you would tell it. And sometimes you want to put in the song more than you probably have to. You just have to give enough of the details that people can then relate it to their own background, no matter where they come from, or if they've ever heard the story or not. You know, you just want to give them just enough. But I think the secret, at least for me, I just know that I can't even write a song unless the story itself has made a connection with me. In other words, it has to be interesting to me first before I can relate it to someone else.
Sure. How heavy is is there an editing process you go through in your songwriting?
Yeah, I'm pretty particular. Well, I'm very deliberate. It takes me much longer to write the lyrics than it does the music. The music comes quite naturally to me because I've played music and sung since I was a little girl. And I wrote when I was a little girl too, but the lyrics I really work at, and I keep taking words out usually. And they have to read a certain way even without the music to me too. I want to see them a certain way on the page, and I do quite a bit of editing. I want everything to be right, down to and, or, but, cause.
Yeah. Are you one of those writers that constantly carries song ideas around with you? Do you have a notebook on hand at all times?
Yeah, I do. I do carry a notebook. It's not a journal. It's just a notebook, and because I've been doing this since I was little now. I usually know when I hear something or read something whether or not I should write it down even now. So I don't just write down everything, but I usually write down, think, that's really interesting, and I better write it down. So I carry my hook book, as I call it, with me.
Are there ambitions there for you to explore other forms of writing, such as books and poetry?
Well, everybody asks me that all the time. I love to read poetry, but don't think, and I've been reading a lot over the last several years, just trying to get better at understanding the meter of poetry when it's not attached to music. I think I would be interested in trying to write maybe short stories or essays, but I don't know. I still have a long way to go with the music, so right now, every now and then I think about it, but I kind of am so used to still working on the form of music right now. I don't know if I'll ever get to the other ones or not. So I'll think about it.
Another field I do believe you are interested, though, is art. I believe you're quite an art lover.
Yes, I love art, and I'm very moved by images and visual things. Usually have created some of my songs. I'm just as much sometimes a painting or a visual. Driving down the road or something can end up being in a song as much as a story that I hear or something that I read. And that love of art has led you to, I believe, take particular care over the album art for your releases. Yeah, I really, because I'm so moved by art, and those pieces and artists that move me. Usually will often, the whole record in several cases has come from that art. The new record, Blues and Lamentations, I basically, this was the first time I did this, but I asked the artist Michelle Mackey, who I was familiar with her art because I have some in my living room, but was interested in seeing what would happen is if I gave her some of the songs that I was working on and let her just paint something for the record. This is the first time I've really commissioned art for the album. But other albums I have used art. The very first record, Songs from the Levee, there's a painting on that record. And there's a photograph on the record Monument by a famous photographer. And it's a photograph of an artist that I wrote a song about, a sculpture on the record. And the sculptor was a guy named William Edmondson. So most of my albums contain something to do with the visual arts as well. I was interested to read, I believe there was one reviewer who was quite critical of the cover art of your last CD. Oh, yeah. You can't, if you tried to please, if we all had the same taste, we'd never get along now, would we? We can't all be the same. And,
no.
Yes, somebody was critical, and that's okay. That's their choice.
Yeah. Do you take much notice of critical reviews of your music? Do you read the press a lot?
Not really. I don't think it's good to pay much attention to good or bad. I think it's nice that people are taking the time to listen to the records and listen to the music, and I appreciate that. But I don't read everything, and I don't think, because ultimately, if you only did that, you probably would. I don't think I'd ever write anything again.
Yeah.
Good or bad, because if someone writes a really good review, then you're thinking, oh man, I can't do anything to top that.
Yeah.
Or if it's a bad review, it's like, oh, I'm not getting any better at all. So,
You can't win either way.
no, you can't.
With your album art, I guess you'd probably yearn for the days of vinyl records, wouldn't you, when you had the space to really be elaborate?
Well, I do. I love old, I'm a big fan of the Allman Brothers, and I like the old jazz Blue Note covers, and things like the Moody Blues and Pink Floyd. I mean, I do like those, and it is hard to read. It's hard to kind of come up with, perhaps the reviewer that didn't like the artwork on this or felt that the lyrics were hard to read. If it was on an album, they would have been much easier to read.
Yeah, yeah.
and he probably could have seen the whole scheme, but it's very difficult to do that with CD. Everything is shrunk. Like I have the original paintings from several of the records, and if someone was to come into my house, they look so different, shrunk down to a CD size.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a real thematic quality to your albums. They almost appear like chapters in a novel, and each album seems to be a slight departure from the previous one. Do you see your music that way?
Well, I do actually. I've kind of described it as kind of a collections of short stories.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely I felt like early on that, for instance, Songs from the Levee, to me, is a good introductory chapter to my music. And a lot of the themes that I started with on Songs from the Levee, I continue to explore. And yes, from album to album, there's usually a phrase or definitely one song that, for the person who really knows all the music, they can probably follow a little bit of the they can probably find those connections. But I do, and I do conceive of albums as albums and not of just as I don't just write a bunch of songs.
Yeah.
I don't just write a song a day and go and then think, oh well, now I've got a bunch of songs. Let me pick 10 to put on a record. I don't write that way at all. I really kind of get notions for the album. And that's another reason why I like to think of, I still call them albums,
yeah,
CDs, is because I kind of have this notion of themes and things that I'm exploring on that one record, and I write for that record and put songs for that record towards that end.
Is there a particular theme that you've been sitting on for a while that you're still to get out there? Or a style of album that you really want to do?
Well, yeah, there's still one. I thought about Blues and Lamentations for that went on for about 3 or 4 years before that kind of all came together. And then there's one other, well, there's several, but there's another one that I've been thinking about as long or maybe a little bit longer even than Blues and Lamentations. So I'm still not sure how to approach it. That's how long it takes me sometimes. So yeah, there's a couple more out there. I don't know if I'll get to them, but I think about them all the time.
So was your intent before you went in to record the last album to cover that and explore that bluesy territory?
Yes, I think to explore it a little more deeply. I think that has always been an undercurrent from the very beginning of my music. I kind of have 3 very strong musical backgrounds. One is in kind of gospel music of a sort. One is country music, as in Nashville country music. And the other is this undercurrent of kind of blues and a little bit of soul and R&B. And it's been on every record. And Blues and Lamentations kind of explored that more fully in the way that I see it in my music, just like I did Wandering Strange to pursue a little bit more of my gospel blues side, and then the Twang on a Wire, which was my tribute record to country women who influenced me as kind of the more of the Nashville country side. So definitely I felt like it's been there all along, but Blues and Lamentations was the first time that I've really tried to go a little deeper, and hopefully folks can see that, you know.
I believe a lot of the record was recorded in one take. Was that the intent before you went in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, though, you know, to be honest with you, a lot of my records have been done that way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, but we definitely went probably the most organic yet. And, you know, because I don't have big budgets, and also I just want the general feeling that when people listen to the music that they are there with me and the musicians, and that we're trying to create a certain really organic feeling to what we're doing. And this thankfully turned out pretty good. I was in good voice, and the guys were just incredible as always.
You've been known at times to revisit some of your older songs on later releases. Has that been often the case where you'll have perhaps multiple arrangements in mind for a particular song, and you've retried some of those early arrangements later on, or how have they eventuated?
That's definitely what happened with the portable Kate Campbell and Sing Me Out. Those are songs from the first, second, third, and fourth records or whatever. But songs that I had continued to do live, over about a 10-year period. And so the more I did them, and even, especially because I felt like I've learned a lot from when I first started, that some of those arrangements have transformed.
Yeah.
And we wanted to give people a little bit of an idea of that, and that's and also have kind of collections that they could listen to in their cars, and kind of get a feeling if they've seen me live in concert, even if they've only seen me with a guitar, which is how I usually travel. That some of the songs have developed and continue to change, and sometimes I. After a certain time period, I might have written a song on the piano, but then we might have recorded it with string instruments, and I might play it live sometimes with the guitar, but then I think, well, I think I want to play it on the piano now for a while. So yes, that's kind of it's kind of things that evolve, and things that I take in and out of my set list, and hopefully I'm maturing, and I start hearing things a little different, and some things sound a lot different, and some things don't sound that different, but they are progressing, I think, and transforming slowly. The longer I do them, they are.
As a performer travelling around the States there, have you noticed a growing swell of interest from younger audiences towards traditional American music?
Well, I think so, and I'm not sure exactly where that comes from. I don't know if some of it may be generational, in that there are some younger folks now whose parents actually kind of grew them up, taking them to live festivals, like Port Fairy.
Yeah.
So so I think that we're seeing the results of some of that, and then I think at the same time we're also seeing people, wanting to experience the music differently, and kind of have a return to that organic feeling that they may have heard on earlier records, and now technology, which is really cool, they can we can hear about, I think, more different kinds of music than we used to could, because we've got satellite radio, and we have independent artists who can put out their own music, and I think that's very appealing to a younger generation, to be able to know that they can sit in their garage and play the guitar and write their songs, and then they can tape it and put it on a podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's very experiential, I think.
I read in one of your publicity statements that some of your songs have recently been featured in a ballet performance of some kind.
That's right. The Ballet Memphis in Memphis, Tennessee, has now done. They first did the ballet like 3 years ago, and they did an encore performance last year, and it's very cool. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe, but
Yeah.
it was very cool, and they actually performed it with me playing live on stage with a band as they danced. So.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was cool too.
So what's in the planning stage now? Are you already thinking about the next record?
Yeah, don't tell anybody. Well, I guess you can. Well, right now I'm set to go into the studio in March.
Oh, great!
And I'm gonna do a little project that's just gonna be me and Spooner Oldham, who's played on my records and just finished. Been touring with Neil Young, and played on Neil's latest record. But I think it's me and Spooner are going to go in the studio, and it's just going to be me and him, and we're going to go down to Fame in Muscle Shoals and do a little recording. And so that's kind of one thing that is coming up next on the horizon. So
wow, that's an exciting project.
Well, Spooner's just. I just think he's an amazing person and musician, and feel very privileged to have met him. And I just kind of want to do a record, and it's going to kind of be a mixture of some originals and again some hymns and some other songs that other people have written. But it'll be kind of a soulful. My effort is I just want people to hear how wonderful Spooner is, really.
Yeah.
And I just want to sing and have him play, and that's what we're going to do.
And to record down at Muscle Shoals too, that's just the icing on the cake, yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite place, So.
Fantastic. And other than that, what else is on your books for 2006?
Well, I'm for the first time I've been asked to go to South Korea. And I'm going to be so I'm kind of flying over y'all's way.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to South Korea and sing at a university, do a concert, and also talk about the South in a lecture.
Fantastic.
And I'm going back to England and Scotland, and I think I'm going to hit Wales again this time, and North Ireland as well as Ireland with Will Kimbrough.
Yep.
So we're going to do that at the end of May and the first couple of weeks in June. And like I said, Spooner and I are doing the recording in March. So good stuff, I think. At least I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to take a little vacation in Japan on my way to Korea. I've always wanted to go there. And so I'm just excited about doing that and having a little sushi and stuff. And so that's before June, so then I might be worn out.
Yeah,
I
think
so. Then we'll see what happens the rest of the year. Hopefully some good concerts, and the Spooner record we hope will be out in the fall, September, October, or something like that, and see what happens.
Tremendous. I'll look forward to that. That sounds like a busy year ahead.
Yes, I hope so.
Thanks a lot, Kate. A real treat to catch up with you. I hope you can fit in another Australian visit too, somewhere in all that, if somewhere down the track.
Well, I hope so. I'm sure that we are planning. My husband's always trying to figure out when we can next get back down under. So we hopefully that might be something maybe for 2007 at least.
Yeah.
If we don't fit it in.
During the
great to be back over there, and I just appreciate everyone listening to the music and being so supportive.
Wonderful. Thanks again, Kate. Much appreciated.
Thank you, John.
Take care, and no doubt we will see you down here somewhere in the near future anyway.
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so.
All the best.
All right.
Bye-bye.